There is this wild, almost unbelievable contradiction in human exploration that I just cannot stop thinking about.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Well, think about it. We have literally strapped human beings to rockets, fired them into the vacuum of space, and sent them 380,000 kilometers away just to walk on the moon.
Right. A massive achievement.
Huge. And we've built these incredibly complex submersible vehicles to plunge, 11,000 meters down into the crushing pitch black depths of the Mariana Trench.
Mhm.
We look up at the stars, we look out across the oceans, but straight down. Like straight beneath the very ground you are walking on right now. We have barely even scratched the surface.
It's so true. I mean, it really is the ultimate blind spot in human knowledge.
Yeah.
We pride ourselves on these intricate maps of the cosmos, but humanity actually only understands about 0.2% of the Earth's radius.
Oh, 0.2%.
Yeah, which is roughly 12,000 meters.
Yeah.
So, next time you step outside, just remember that the most mysterious, the most profoundly alien world you will ever encounter isn't millions of light years away. It is directly beneath your shoes.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive. We are going to take you on a vertical descent.
I love it.
We're starting right here at the surface in the familiar dirt of our own backyards, and we are going to travel all the way down to the spinning, apocalyptic core of the Earth.
It is quite the journey.
It really is. It's a journey through human history, extreme survival, and geology that frankly sounds like pure science fiction.
And the deeper we go, the more our everyday assumptions about how the physical world works they'll completely fall apart.
Right.
We start out in a shallow layer defined by human convenience, but very quickly that transitions into a space defined by absolute extremes.
Okay, let's unpack this. We'll start just below the surface,
Yeah.
a mere 2 meters down.
The classic depth.
Exactly. Historically, this is the standard universal depth for a human grave. And there are some really fascinating cultural philosophies driving that.
Right, because it wasn't just arbitrary.
No, not at all. In the West, the tradition of burying intact bodies at exactly 2 meters actually stems from the belief in Jesus' 3-day resurrection. The philosophical idea was that the body needed to be preserved whole to rise again. Meanwhile, in the East, the driving philosophy was this concept of rest in the earth. The idea that placing the physical body deep in the ground brings eternal peace to the soul.
Those are the beautiful philosophical drivers, sure. But there is a brutally practical why behind that specific 2-meter rule as well.
Absolutely, the science of it.
Right. Historically, 2 meters is precisely the depth required to ensure that a buried body won't spread plagues and infectious diseases back up to the surface population.
Which was a massive deal back then.
Huge. It wasn't just religion. It was an ancient public health measure. Because burrowing animals in heavy rains could easily disturb a shallow grave, so 2 meters was the safety zone, basically.
Which makes perfect sense. Although, today we are seeing a massive modern shift toward cremation globally.
Yeah, mostly for space.
Exactly. Traditional burials take up way too much real estate and create sanitation issues for growing cities. Plus, and I have to mention this, part of that historical Western insistence on solid, deep burials might have been quietly tied to a lingering, superstitious fear of the dead coming back as vampires or zombies.
Yeah, keep them down there.
You want them under a very good layer of packed dirt. Though now we have these incredible modern tree burials. You place the ashes at the roots of a sapling, and the concept is that the person's essence essentially attaches to the living tree.
It's a really wonderful evolution of how we interact with the shallow earth. But while humans are digging down 2 meters to hide our dead, the animal kingdom is actually digging down to hide the living. Yeah, at 4 meters down, we find the world's deepest known ant nest.
Built by the black long ant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remarkably, that is the exact same depth as the roof of King Tutankhamun's tomb in Egypt.
I love that image so much. A legendary pharaoh and an insect colony ultimately sharing the exact same thin layer of topsoil. It really puts human grandiosity into perspective.
It really does.
And if you go down to 12 meters, you find the deepest animal burrow on record, which belongs to the Nile crocodile.
To go that deep.
Yeah. They dig these incredibly elaborate plunging tunnels into riverbanks to hide from predators and hunters, specifically to protect their highly valuable skin.
That makes sense. But going back to human digging, passing that 4 to 12 meter mark is where we start to see sheer mechanical ingenuity.
Oh, definitely, because we hit a limit, right?
At around 6 meters, we hit the absolute limit of what a modern metal detector can sense. So to find what's buried deeper, ancient people had to get creative.
Yes, you actually see this brilliantly applied in ancient China.
With the Luoyang shovel.
I am obsessed with how the Luoyang shovel works. It's not a normal shovel. It's this specialized, heavy tubular blade attached to a long rope or pole.
Right.
And grave robbers would plunge it an astonishing 10 to 20 meters straight down into the earth, twist it, and pull it back up.
Which is incredibly smart.
It is. Because of its tubular shape, it extracts a perfect, intact, vertical cross-section of the soil. So the robbers could look at this dirt core, and if they saw reverse soil layers or bits of charcoal or pottery shards, they instantly knew humans had dug there before.
They knew exactly where the tombs were without moving tons of dirt.
Exactly.
It's essentially ancient core sampling. And speaking of ancient tombs, once you reach 35 meters down, you hit the estimated roof of Emperor Qin Shi Huang's tomb.
The emperor famous for the terracotta army.
That's the one.
Now, I have to push back on the mythology surrounding this tomb, because in the sources we looked at, there was an analyst, Ding Zhaozong, who theorized that this tomb could be anywhere from 500 to 1,500 meters deep.
Based on ancient texts, yeah.
Right. The texts claimed the builders dug until they couldn't dig anymore. But physically, how could an ancient civilization dig a kilometer straight down without modern ventilation or water pumps? It just doesn't track.
No, it doesn't track at all. And geology agrees with you. The scientific consensus is a much more grounded 30 to 35 meter roof.
Which is still huge.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
With the tomb itself extending maybe another 30 meters below that, which is still a monumental feat of ancient engineering. But it proves that early humans were strictly limited by the water table and lack of oxygen.
Exactly. But sometimes humans weren't digging down for the dead, they were digging down to survive.
Right.
Because at 85 meters, we find the Cappadocia underground city in Turkey. And looking at the design of this place, it's just baffling.
It's very strange architecture.
It is. It's a 20 to 30 story deep underground complex, but the ceilings are painfully low, the corridors are so tight you have to crouch, and there are absolutely no doors. Why on earth would anyone build a city that is so physically uncomfortable to navigate?
Well, because it wasn't built for daily comfort. I mean, it was a fortress of last resort.
Oh, I see.
The architecture is entirely defensive. Those tight, doorless passages are intentional bottlenecks.
To stop an army.
Exactly. If an invading army tries to enter, they can't march in formation. They have to crawl through one by one, making it incredibly easy for a single defender with a spear to hold off an entire battalion.
Wow. Okay, that makes perfect sense.
There's even a fringe theory from an old documentary suggesting it could have been designed to survive ancient nuclear fallout.
Which is wildly speculative.
Oh, entirely speculative. But the archaeological evidence of its true use is undeniable. The ceilings in some of those deepest, tightest spaces are completely blackened by soot.
Really?
Yeah, that proves they had working, communal kitchens and ventilation shafts operating 85 meters down while sieges raged on the surface above them.
That is incredible. But leaving the ancient world behind, when we drop down to 105.5 meters, we hit modern engineering with the Arsenalna subway station in Kyiv, Ukraine.
Which is so deep.
So deep. And by the way, there's a fantastic local urban legend about a time traveler appearing on the platform there. But the actual engineering reality is just as interesting. They didn't build it that deep for bomb shelter purposes initially.
Right, it was purely geology.
Exactly. The earth near the surface was just too soft and unstable, essentially muck and clay. Engineers were forced to keep digging deeper and deeper until they finally hit rock hard enough to physically support a massive, vibrating transit hub.
And that search for hard rock leads us perfectly to the final stop in this shallow human layer, down at 155 meters.
What's down there?
The Sala silver mine in Sweden. It's a 400-year-old depleted mine. They extracted all the silver, leaving these massive cavernous voids in the solid stone.
And they just left it.
Well, no. Instead
Yeah.
of abandoning it, the local town repurposed it. It now houses the world's deepest hotel suite.
No way.
Yes. And because of the perfectly carved rock walls, the acoustics are so pristine they actually use it as an underground concert hall.
Okay, I want to go there. But this is where the journey takes a massive turn. Up to 155 meters, we're talking about architecture, history, and clever engineering.
Yeah, fun stuff.
Right. But as we keep pushing down, the Earth stops cooperating. The pressure builds. The light vanishes completely. We are entering a zone where simply existing is a miracle.
Which brings us to a depth of 700 meters. And one of the most gripping survival stories in modern history.
The 2010 Chilean mine collapse.
Exactly. 33 miners sealed in the absolute dark.
It's terrifying.
And the sheer terror of that depth is that surface rescue teams had no idea where they were, or if the initial collapse had killed them all.
They were just guessing.
For 2 grueling weeks, rescuers were operating completely blind. They were just drilling these tiny exploratory boreholes into the mountain, hoping to mathematically intersect with the void.
And then they heard it.
Yes. Finally, at a depth of 688 meters, metal rhythmically tapping against the drill bit.
Oh, it gives you chills. When they pulled that drill back up, the miners had attached a piece of paper with red text that simply read, "We 33 are all alive."
Incredibly.
They had managed to find refuge in a tiny food storage area. And actually, one of the trapped men was a former professional soccer player, which inspired a lot of the team dynamics down there. They even made a movie about it in 2014, The 33. But finding them was the easy part, Rick.
Right. It took 2 full months of non-stop drilling to bore a rescue hole that was just barely wide enough to squeeze a human being through.
2 months.
Yeah, and the extraction process itself took 8 to 9 hours of continuous, nerve-wracking hauling just to pull them up to the surface one by one.
A total testament to human endurance. But moving from forced survival to intentional exploration, we plunge even deeper. We pass 1,642 meters, which is the bottom of Lake Baikal in Russia.
Oh, where they took the Olympic torch underwater.
Exactly. And we pass 2,197 meters, the bottom of the Kribira Cave in Georgia, which is the deepest natural cave on Earth. And then at 2,400 meters, we arrive at the Jinping Underground Laboratory in Sichuan, China.
This is one of the most fascinating scientific facilities on the planet. It was built specifically to search for dark matter.
Okay, wait. Let me deduce this.
Go for it.
Dark matter is theorized to be this invisible substance that passes right through normal physical matter, right?
Yes.
So if it passes through everything, why on earth do we need to be 1.5 miles underground to study space? Wouldn't the dark matter just pass through the mountain too?
It does pass through the mountain.
Ah, is the mountain acting as a filter for everything else?
You nailed it. If you put a highly sensitive dark matter detector on the surface of the Earth, it is instantly blinded by cosmic static.
Because of radiation.
Exactly. Our planet is constantly being bombarded by cosmic rays, solar radiation, and energetic particles. But if you place your detector 2,400 meters underground, that unimaginable thickness of dense rock acts as the ultimate cosmic shield.
That is so smart.
Right. It absorbs and blocks out every single stray particle of radiation. The only thing in the universe capable of ghosting through 2.5 kilometers of solid rock is dark matter itself.
Wow.
So, in that pure, artificially silent environment, if your detector registers a hit, you know exactly what you found.
That is brilliant, using the literal crushing weight of the Earth to block out the noise of the universe.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Because at 3,600 meters down, in a place where no biological organism should be able to exist, we find the Halocephalobus mephisto.
Commonly known as the devil worm.
The devil worm.
Right.
Let's talk about how it's surviving. Because at 3,600 meters, there is 0 oxygen.
None.
The ambient heat from the Earth's core is blistering, and the atmospheric pressure is heavy enough to crush a car. Yet this worm lives in the microscopic fractures of the rock, feeding off deep Earth bacteria that survive on chemical reactions rather than sunlight.
What's fascinating here is the biology of this creature. I mean, it's a microscopic worm, about 0.5 millimeters long, and it is thriving in a literal hellscape.
Exactly.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the devil worm fundamentally rewrites the rules of astrobiology.
How so?
Well, before this discovery, scientists assumed life needed sunlight, oxygen, and moderate temperatures. But if a complex multicellular organism can happily reproduce 1.5 miles underground in boiling, pressurized rock, it proves that life is absurdly resilient.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, it means that when we look at seemingly dead, frozen planets or moons like Europa with its subterranean oceans, the chances of life existing beneath the surface are exponentially higher than we ever thought.
It really makes the universe feel a lot more crowded.
It does.
Now, just below our resilient little worm, at 3,902 meters, we hit the absolute hard stop for human travel, the Tautona Gold Mine in South Africa.
The absolute deepest a human being has ever traveled.
It takes a full, uninterrupted hour just riding a high-speed elevator drop to get to the bottom.
And that is the absolute limit of flesh and bone. The ambient rock temperature there can hit 140 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's unbearable.
Completely. Without massive, continuous industrial air conditioning, a human would cook to death. So from here on out, we leave biology behind. We are entering the mechanical frontier.
Which brings us to 12,263 meters and the legendary Kola super deep borehole.
Yes.
This was a massive 20-year-long Russian science project aimed at drilling as deep into the crust as physically possible. And I have to share the infamous urban legend that surrounds it.
Oh, you mean the sounds of hell?
Yes, I love this story. The myth goes that one day, the drill bit suddenly hit a massive hollow cavern and began spinning wildly out of control.
Right.
The scientists, totally confused, lowered a heat-resistant microphone down this 12-kilometer hole to hear what was going on, and the audio they allegedly recorded was this cacophony of what sounded like the tortured, agonizing screams of thousands of men and women.
It's so creepy.
It is. And the project's lead, a Dr. Azakov, famously went on record in the myth, claiming that as a communist, he didn't believe in God, but as a scientist who heard that tape, he now absolutely believed in hell. Shortly after, the project was shut down, and the hole was permanently welded shut.
It is a fantastic piece of folklore. But the engineering reality is actually much more fascinating, I think.
Why did they really stop?
The reason they had to stop drilling wasn't demons, it was physics. At 12,000 meters down, the temperature of the rock hit nearly 350 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and at that heat and pressure, the rock stops acting like solid stone and starts acting like thick, viscous plastic.
It's melting.
Essentially, yeah. Every time they pulled the drill bit up to replace it, the hole would literally ooze back, close behind it. It became physically impossible to maintain the shaft, and the project simply ran out of funding.
That is wild.
But that myth perfectly illustrates humanity's primal, instinctual fear of the deep earth.
It really does. Though we did manage to beat that depth just slightly. The true galvanical limit is the Z44 Chevo oil well in Russia, which reaches 12,376 meters.
That's a bit deeper.
Yeah. But to picture that, imagine stacking the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, on top of itself, 15 times straight down. It is deeper than the bottom of the Mariana Trench.
And that is it. That is where human physical reach ends. Our greatest drills can't go a single meter further.
So how do we know what's below that?
Well, to map the rest of the journey, the remaining 6,000 kilometers to the center of the Earth, we have to rely entirely on reading seismic waves and advanced physics.
Okay.
And this is where everything you thought you knew about the ground beneath you turns upside down.
Let's start with the crust, because we think of the Earth's crust as this massive permanent thing, but it only goes down about 33 kilometers.
Right.
And chemically, it's just mundane volcanic rock, essentially identical to the dead surface of Mars or Venus or the Moon. But when you cross that 33-kilometer boundary, you enter the upper mantle. Now, my entire life, I assumed that hundreds of kilometers underground, it must be an abyss of pitch black dirt.
Most people do. I mean, why wouldn't you? But what's fascinating here is that the physics dictate the exact opposite.
Really?
Yeah. The sheer weight of the 33 kilometers of rock above it creates incomprehensible pressure. And when you squeeze matter that hard, the friction and energy generate immense heat.
Okay, that makes sense.
It heats the rock until it literally glows. It is not a dark abyss. It is blindingly, radiantly bright.
That is so hard to picture, and it's not just glowing dirt either, right? The mantle is absolutely packed with olivine, which are green gemstones, along with rubies and diamonds.
Exactly. This raises an important question about how we visualize the Earth. It isn't brown dirt. It's an unimaginably large, glowing jewelry box.
Wow.
And the color actually changes the deeper you go, because as the pressure continues to exponentially increase, it forces the atoms of those gemstones closer and closer together.
And that changes the light.
Yes. When atoms are squeezed that tightly, it fundamentally alters how they emit light. So at the top of the mantle, it glows a light, radiant green. Deeper down, the pressure forces it into a rich, dark green. And eventually, near the bottom of the upper mantle, the atomic pressure shifts the color entirely to a blinding, brilliant blue.
That visual is just staggering, a subterranean ocean of glowing blue diamonds and rubies.
It's beautiful.
It is. And then we pass through the lower mantle from 2,800 to 4,800 kilometers down, where the rock is so dense that magma from there never reaches the surface for us to even study.
Right.
But then we hit the outer core. And this is the most important layer for every single living thing on Earth.
Without a doubt. The outer core is a massive planetary-sized ocean of liquid iron. And it is in constant churning motion, rotating at a speed of about 1 meter per hour.
Wait, so why is it spinning?
It's pure thermodynamics. Think of it like a boiling pot of water on a stove. The unimaginably hot inner core is the burner, heating the liquid iron at the bottom. That hot iron rises toward the cooler mantle, cools down slightly, and then sinks back to the bottom to be heated again.
Like a convection oven.
Exactly. But because the entire Earth is rotating in space, that rising and falling iron gets twisted by the Coriolis effect into massive, spinning, spiraling vortexes.
Okay, so what does this all mean for us? Why does a boiling pot of iron thousands of kilometers away matter to you and me?
Because of the dynamo theory.
Which is?
When you have a massive ocean of conductive liquid metal violently churning and spinning, it generates massive electrical currents. And those electrical currents generate the Earth's magnetic field. That invisible magnetic shield extends far out into space, and it's the only thing standing between us and total annihilation.
Right, because without that magnetic field, the solar winds, which are these hyperfast streams of charged particles constantly blasting out from the sun, those solar winds would violently collide with our atmosphere.
Exactly. The magnetic field deflects the solar wind. If the outer core stopped spinning, the magnetic field would collapse. The solar wind would instantly strip our atmosphere away into deep space.
Just blow it away.
Just gone. And without our atmosphere to physically block cosmic UV radiation, the surface of the Earth would be instantly sterilized. Every plant, animal, and human would burn.
That's terrifying.
It is. Incidentally, the chaotic fluid dynamics of this spinning core are also why the Earth's magnetic poles become unstable and completely flip every 100,000 to 200,000 years.
Okay, so the liquid outer core is literally keeping us alive.
Yeah.
But then we reach the absolute center, the inner core. It is a perfect, solid sphere of iron and nickel.
Yeah.
Now, it is actually hotter than the liquid outer core, but it remains entirely solid because the apocalyptic pressure from the weight of the entire planet is squeezing the atoms so tightly they physically cannot turn into a liquid.
But this introduces a terrifying timeline for our planet, because that solid inner core hasn't always been there. When the Earth first formed, the entire core was liquid. The solid center only started forming, essentially freezing out of the liquid iron about 1 billion years ago.
Oh, wow.
And because the Earth is slowly radiating its heat out into space, the inner core is actively growing.
It's cooling down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Eventually, billions of years from now, that solid inner core will grow so large that it will freeze the entire liquid outer core solid.
And if the liquid outer core freezes solid, the churning stops.
Yep.
The spinning stops. And if the spinning stops, the dynamo theory shuts down and the magnetic field dies.
Exactly.
And if the magnetic field dies, the atmosphere is stripped away and the Earth dies with it.
Precisely, we become Mars, a dead, irradiated rock floating in the dark.
Which presents this incredibly dark, poetic irony. When that finally happens and the surface becomes a deadly wasteland, humanity's only hope for survival will be to flee back underground, to dig down into the crust.
Right back where we started.
Exactly. Bringing us right back to where we started our journey today. Hiding out in subterranean bunkers, just like the ancient residents of the Cappadocia underground city.
We come full circle. From digging down to bury our dead, to digging down to keep ourselves alive.
It really makes you reflect on the whole journey. We spend so much time and money looking up at the stars, building telescopes, dreaming of what alien worlds might look like. But the ground we walk on every single day holds mysteries, extreme environments, and glowing blue landscapes that we have barely begun to fathom. We understand a mere 0.2% of our own planet.
And that leaves us with a profound shift in perspective, I think.
What's that?
Given the immense heat, the crushing pressure, and the absolute biological resilience of creatures like the devil worm, happily living miles beneath the surface, what if that deep, dark, glowing underground is actually the normal place for life on Earth to exist?
Oh, wow.
Think about it. What if we up here in the open air, constantly dealing with volatile weather, shifting climates, and solar radiation, what if we surface dwellers are just the bizarre anomalies?
That is a crazy thought.
Maybe humanity is just clinging to the planet's exposed, dangerous outer shell, completely unaware of the thriving, stable world humming away right beneath our feet. Keep digging for the truth.
I don't think I am ever going to look at a patch of dirt the same way again. Next time you go for a walk, remember the most alien world isn't in the sky. It is right beneath your feet.